A very good evening to you. I'm meteorologist Jack Drake here at the CT Weather Center studios. Obviously, watching this really robust storm system that's going to work in for tomorrow. I think this has a lot of upside to it as far as wind and flooding impacts. So that's what we're watching here tonight. First thing I just want to note really quickly is this passes the eye test, right? So you don't have to be a meteorologist to see how robust this storm system looks. As it just, the low right now is in Oklahoma, but this thing is just absolutely producing. It's a absolute, it's an inland buzz saw, however you want to say that, right? This thing is an absolute beast. And it's gonna, it's really can't miss. That's the other thing, right? When you get storm systems this big that track over the Great Lakes, it's not like this is gonna disappear and not gonna hit us like it's some snowstorm, right? So when you see something like this, it's the real deal. They call it. I saw, that cranky weather guy on Twitter. He calls it the bird of prey look, where the eye of the bird is here. Basically, the wings are up here and the feet are here. It kind of looks like a backwards eagle, and that's a really good way to describe it. So when you see this kind of presentation, again, lean high with impacts. So today, my main thing is I've been leaning high with impacts in the forecast and leaning high with the wording, right? Really trying to sound the alarm a little bit, say, hey, we're going to have flood problems. We're probably going to have some wind problems. The flood problems, I'm pretty much certain of at this point. Even if we came in a little bit lower, closer to 2 or 3 inches on the guidance, I think we'd still see sporadic flood issues. But if we end up with that 4 or 5 inch range, like some of the higher end guidance shows, that's when we could get into some pretty meaty issues. So let's just take a look at this is the 0ZHRRR. I think this did a pretty good job. It's a pretty good blend of what all the different models are showing. So again, notice I have the 12-hour totals up. I can show you the full totals here. Um, Notice what areas are going to get hit the hardest here, right? It really does look like from eastern Pennsylvania to Connecticut to Maine is kind of the bullseye of the system, right? And it's going to track all the way up the East Coast, but I think for our region, this is the bullseye right in here. So, uh, you know, I don't think this misses. Again, I'm leaning high with flood impacts. Even at the 3.23 inches are in Danbury, 3 inches are in eastern Connecticut, 3 inches are in northern Connecticut. Like it's going to do a lot of flooding, right? Especially with the snow melt and just the way the groundwater already is. The water table is so high. There's really not a lot for us to avoid this flood problems. Now, the winds are a little bit trickier. So the wind forecast, we talked about the flooding forecast, right? The flooding forecast I think is pretty set. The wind forecast is very tricky to me because we do have a really strong inversion, and a lot of times those strong inversions they create a stable layer, and you don't really get the severe winds, especially inland in the winter. Sometimes coastal regions can still get strong to damaging gusts, but inland you don't get those winds. So this depicts that pretty well, and I want to show you. New Jersey gets hit hard, right? And again, these don't take these gust numbers verbatim. Probably subtract 10 or 20% off even these HRRR numbers, right? So I wouldn't just say, oh, it's going to be 70 miles an hour in southern Jersey, but if gusts 50 to 60 miles an hour in southern Jersey, I think are a decent bet. But as you get closer to Connecticut and we go through time here, notice what county doesn't do well, right? It's where all that snow fell on Saturday night and Sunday. This northern Connecticut section to central Massachusetts, this doesn't really produce wind, I think, because there's going to be snow on the ground. The temperature is going to be a bit colder, and that inversion is going to be a lot stronger. So, where the snow is going to melt at the coastline and the southern half of Connecticut, those areas that busted in the snowfall totals, like I had to hear about on Saturday night and Sunday, those areas are going to produce, I think, stronger winds. So, if you didn't get a lot of snow this weekend, that's where I'm most concerned about the wind. The towns that have a foot on the ground right now and it turned glacial the last couple days with that melt and refreeze, that again, you're still going to have flooding issues for sure because now you have a foot of snow melt and you have the heavy rain, but the ground's going to stay a lot colder there. And you might not have as much wind. So that's kind of my theory going into this forecast. Again, that the wind forecasts are so tricky. And I know a wind advisory is still in effect for Litchfield County. So Litchfield County and Hartford County both have a wind advisory. I believe wind gusts forecast up to 55 miles per hour there. But I just wanted to, this was one of the things that I noticed when analyzing a little bit of the data that made sense to me. So I'm going to leave it at that for tonight. We'll have a full update in the morning. I'll have to have, if you follow OmniWeather on Facebook, we'll have a full forecast discussion out every day at 8 a.m. So we'll have that out there tomorrow, and we will have everyone briefed for the upcoming major. I almost said winter storm. It's kind of a win. It's the winter, so technically it's a winter storm, but the major rainstorm coming up. Thank you very much. Have a good night.